Okay, so here we are under the hood of our 2001 second gen 5.9 Cummins. This is obviously the VP44 truck. We are going to be installing the brand new comp module. This has been released to replace our legacy comp module, which has been on the market for over 20 years. We took it upon ourselves to kind of reinvest Edge's support to the VP44 market and make sure that we're offering the absolute best product we can to that customer base. There's still a lot of these trucks on the road. So we basically started from scratch with comp, kind of reinventing what comp was, what it is, and what it can be into the future. So we built on our legacy comp, took what that device has been doing, dominating the VP44 performance market for 2 decades, and we built upon that. So this new comp will make more power, more torque, and run higher RPM than what the original comp was. And that's even comparing it to the comp hot that we've been selling. This product will outperform the original comp hot, but due to the adjustability that we've put into this device with the smartphone app, you can actually tune this to run just as good or better than the standard comp with the performance of hot comp. So we are now offering this in just 2 SKUs, one for the 98.5 through 2000 model year and one for the 01 to 02 model year. But it does give you the adjustability and drivability of a standard comp with the performance potential of a hot comp. So we'll start the install right here under the hood by opening up our package, getting our module and our wiring harness out. Now, depending on what model year truck you have and which device you order, the 98.5 to 2000 will have a data link connector that is a triangle shape. This is the 01 to 02 harness, so this has the 3-pin connector for the map sensor here. And then it has this conversion harness that can be used if you have an 02 truck. And then that data link harness we mentioned is here. On this particular truck, it uses this 3-pin flat. If you have the earlier model year truck, it's that triangle data link, and then there's also an adapter for that in the 2000 model SKU. So we have all the bases covered depending on which model year engine you have under the hood. Just order the appropriate product for your model year and you will have the conversion harnesses that are needed. But to start this off, we're obviously going to disconnect our negative terminals on our batteries. Obviously we've got 2 batteries on this truck. We're going to use a 13 mil loosen up this driver's side battery. Let's move out of the way. We'll move over to the other side of the truck and do this passenger side battery. This is obviously a safety measure to make sure we're not sending any voltage through anything in the truck when we're trying to install the product. We want to make sure we don't have any power at the ECM as we're connecting and disconnecting these harnesses. So with that step underway and completed, we can move on to the actual harness installation. Now we're going to start by running our harness out where we need to go here. The module itself is going to be mounted here on the fuse panel. So we're going to start with our harness right there with the main module going there. And then we obviously need to route these wires where they need to go. There's one fuse tap here that needs to go through the firewall into the fuse panel. We'll do that last. This connector is that data link that we mentioned. On these trucks, it's actually located in a couple different spots. On this particular 01, our data link is up on the front of the engine, right below the injection pump. You'll see the 3-prong connector. And this is an open connector. They usually just have a dummy plug cap on the end to keep moisture and such out. So we can go ahead and connect to this data link very first. And it's just a simple plug and play. Obviously there's a keeper on it. Make sure that gets plugged in and clicked. And then we've got our map sensor here. On this truck, it's located back towards the back of the engine, right behind the fuel bowl. On this 2001, it's the smaller 3-pin, so we do not need the adapter harness that's included with this kit. That would be specific for the 2002 trucks. But basically just need to unplug the factory harness, plug the new comp harness into the map sensor on the truck, and then the other end of that pigtail plugs into the truck's connector that we just disconnected from the map sensor. So we're basically just piggybacking that so we can interpret the signal coming from the truck. All right, we got that plugged in, tucked away. The next part of the install is this short harness here that we're going to route under our intake elbow. And you'll see we've got one ring terminal that we're going to attach to the ground right here on this 10mm bolt at the intake manifold. And then the other is actually a tap that we're going to tap into a wire located under this APPS module. So we need to get our 13mm ratchet out again and remove these 3 bolts here so we can get better access to the VP44 injection pump wire. That's where all the magic happens. So we can start altering the signal in that injection pump and really get this thing fueling like it needs to so we can make some good horsepower. Again, this is not new technology to how we're manipulating the fueling of this. I mean, we've been doing the comp box for, like I said, 20 years, so this is not new, tapping these pumps. It's just the science and the technology in the module itself that we've improved. You know, we've been offering our juice with attitudes for these trucks for quite a while and have had really good results. And I mean, they've been dominating this VP44 tuning market for a long time. It's a great product. The CTS3 juice with attitude has been doing really well for us. A lot of happy customers, but this comp module is for those guys that already have gauges in the cab that don't need that CTS3 monitor, don't want that CTS3 monitor, but they want the maximum potential out of this VP44. So again, the engineers really put in a lot of effort into this product line, and we're getting smoother power delivery, higher RPM without fuel cut as early as some of the competitors. I mean, we did do quite a bit of testing with the competitive markets on our products on the market, and I think you'll really be impressed at how well this new comp runs. Comparing it to the old comp, it's got better potential. In a stock like this application, this is still a stock turbo, stock injector truck, and we picked up about 180 horsepower in this stock form. In a modified application, which is comp's kind of bread and butter, you know, with bigger injectors, different turbo combinations, the comp adjustability with the fuel curve, timing adjustments through the app and everything, you can really fine tune the drivability of that truck so that it's a nice streetable truck, but can still give you maximum wide open throttle potential, whether you're at a drag strip, sled pulling application, or just a hot street truck. I really think you'll enjoy the way this new comp works on these old trucks. But back to this tap here. The instruction manual will show you exactly which wire you need to tap, but it's here on the back of the VP44. You'll see 2 wire bundles on this device, and we need to access the top wire bundle and tap into the one wire here. Obviously the harness includes the tap on it. The one thing we will note to make this installation easier, since the end cap of the tap will be placed on the wire, you can't twist it after it's done. And your life will be a lot easier if you will rotate this tap on the wire harness about 7 turns to kind of preload that harness. Once you connect it to this cap, it'll basically unwind itself and twist right onto that cap on that wire. So we'll go ahead and get that tap done, and we can move on to the next step. All right, we're gonna give you a little better angle camera view of this wire we're gonna tap here. So we've got these 3 bolts removed, so the APPS is out of our way. Gives us a little better access to these 2 wires that are right here. This is the top of the injection pump. You can see this one shows that it's got a reman VP44 on it, like most trucks do these days. But you'll see there are 2 wires right here next to the engine block. We need to tap the wire that's closest to the engine block. So this one up here on the left side of the camera. We just need to slip that black cap over that wire and then twist that tap down on so that we can tap into that wire. So we'll do that now. It's going to be hard to get that on video, but you'll get the idea. Just make sure you get that wire that's closest to the engine block right there on the top of the pump. Okay, so you can see we've got that tap on. We can go ahead and reinstall this APPS module, and then we're going to attach the ring terminal here onto our ground strap, and then we'll move on to tapping into the fuse panel for the key on power in the cab. Okay, so we've got our ratchet here. We need a 10mm socket to remove this intake plenum bolt here. We need to attach our device's ground strap at this location here. Again, this install is really straightforward. I mean, taking the time to move cameras around, reposition, do all that stuff, this install is going to take about 30 minutes. So when not filming, you can do this a lot quicker. The one thing we will note is that because this is an 0102 truck that has the later style turbocharger, we do not need to be installing the boost elbow that we include, but on those 98 to 2000 trucks that had the HX35 turbocharger, we do include that boost elbow that you'll have to change on the turbocharger itself, but that's a simple process. Simply remove the wastegate hose off of that factory boost elbow, thread the factory boost elbow out, and then thread in our included brass elbow, and then reattach the hose and put the hose clamp on it. So we're not going to walk through that step on this truck just because we don't have that HX35 turbocharger. This one has the later HY style turbo, but that is an added step for the earlier model year trucks that the instruction manual will walk you through that you will not see in this video. So we've got our ground attached. Now we're going to go ahead and put our APPS module back on here with our 3 bolts. This isn't necessarily a step that has to be done. It just offers you a lot more room to get your hands down in there to get to that tap on that pump wire. It can be done without removing this, but I've always preferred having the extra access so I can make sure that that tap gets secured and in the right wire, and it's just nice to have the extra room. And for the 3 bolts and the 2 minutes of time, it just seems worthwhile. So with these connections all completed, we can now move into the cab and attach our key on power spade. We include a tapped fuse that you can put into a factory location. Make this super simple. You will need to run that wire through the firewall, obviously. On an automatic truck, it's easy because you can run it through the grommet where the clutch would be going through. On the manual trucks, you'll have to find a grommet that you can put a slice in and run that wire through. But again, it's a pretty simple process, so we'll move on to that now. Okay, so we've routed our spade terminal on that wire harness through the firewall. We need to tap into this fuse panel here. We need key on power. So in the instructions, it tells you we need to tap fuse number 9, which is labeled here on the back of your panel cover. So it's the 3rd from the right on the top row. So we're going to remove the factory fuse. And then included in your kit will be this simple fuse tap. We just need to install into that fuse location with our tapped wire on the bottom side. And then we're going to route this wire harness up through the bottom of the dash. Like so. And then we're going to simply connect these 2 connectors. And now our module will have key on power. Tuck this up out of the way. And then we can simply put our cover back on, move back under the hood and finalize the module installation, reconnect our batteries, and then we can go through and sync our wireless power level switch, and then we can start walking through the features of the app. All right, back under the hood, and we're going to do the last step, which is installing the comp module itself. Again, we've got this harness routed from before. We're going to take the comp module itself from the kit, and it will simply plug right in and snap. You'll hear it click, and then we do have some adhesive in the kit with some double-side tape, so you can clean off the top of this fuse panel box and locate that module right there on top of that fuse panel. Now we're gonna go ahead and reconnect our batteries, and then we're gonna turn the key on without starting the engine so that we can sync our wireless remote to the module itself. As mentioned earlier, the comp was really developed for those all-out performance guys that want to get the absolute most they can out of their VP44 truck. With that said, this is a great tuner in a stock application because of the adjustability that's built into the device. We can have really mild, like 40 horsepower gains that work really good for a daily driver and a tow rig. Not a lot of smoke output. I mean, this is a completely stock truck we're putting this comp on. With the exception of the transmission that's been gone through. I mean, it's factory right down to the airbox. It still has the original exhaust under the truck as well. So comp will fit a lot of different applications, while it is most likely beneficial on a heavily modified truck with big injectors, big single turbos, twin turbos, that kind of a setup. We really have a lot of adjustability in the app to control that fueling for those applications and get the most potential out of this VP44. So with the installation pretty much complete, we just need to sync our wireless remote that comes in the package. You'll notice that there are 3 batteries included in the packaging, and that will be the next step. So we've got our wireless switch here, and we basically just need to remove the back. You'll notice a little indent on there that you can stick your fingernail in, and the back will pop off of the switch. And then we've got our 3 batteries here that we just need to place into the switch itself. Once that step is complete and the back is reinstalled, snapped in place, you'll see the switch will start scrolling. We just need to keep this switch within a couple inches of this device, and we're going to turn our ignition on without starting the truck. This obviously sends power to the new comp module, and with the switch scrolling like that, it will pair itself to the module. And as it scrolls, it's syncing for this particular module. Once it turns off, the switch is now synced to the truck, and we can now use this switch to turn our power levels up and down. It'll display the power levels here on the switch, but then we can also see the power levels when we open the app. So just like that, our switch is synced. We can take this into the cab. We do have some double-side Velcro, so you can attach this to the dash, or you can just set this in your cup holder, set it in the center console. You can do whatever you'd like with this. With it being wireless, we don't have to permanently mount anything, which is a really nice feature for these trucks. So now we'll move into the cab of the truck and we'll start walking through the app. Obviously at this point, you could go drive the truck. You have the calibrated power levels in the device right now ready to go. So in a stock application or a real mild fuel in application, you could use these tunes just as they come. Again, in this stock truck, we picked up 180 horsepower and 400 foot-pound of torque. So you can just go out and drive it like this. But for a modified application, opening up that app will really give you more control and fine-tuning and some adjustability to get that smoke output, the throttle response, kind of fine-tune that application and drivability to your needs. And you can set up each power level to be the way you want it to be. So if you've got real big injectors, but want to be able to drive it on the street, you can set power level 1 or power level 2 with some low boost fueling and adjust the timing so that the smoke output and the drivability is really great. While level 5, you can set it however you need to get the maximum potential out of that truck. So we'll move into the cab and we'll start walking through that process now. All right, so we have downloaded our Comp app from the Apple Store or from the Android Google Store. It's available for both. The first time you open that app, it's going to want to connect to your specific module under the hood. So you need to have the key turned on, the engine not running, and we want to be within 6 to 12 inches of the module. So we're just right here under the hood. Open the app up. It's now detected that this is the first time it's connected to this module, and it needs to check for updates before continuing. So we're going to go ahead and select continue. It's going to connect to our server to see if there's any updates available for the module. It's going to ask us to input our information, so your email and the password for your update agent stuff. So we'll walk through that process. All right, so after logging into our update agent account, if you don't already have an account, it does give you the ability to register it right here through your phone. So it says the update is, the device is up to date. So we're going to press continue, which is actually the back button. And now it's going to connect to the module, and you'll see the app will open up to the adjustable features here. So here we are in the app itself. Again, we can change power levels right here in the app or through the wireless switch. You cannot change the power levels on the switch if you've got the app open. So as long as the app is closed, the switch will work as normal, but you can come into the app and change the power levels here as well. A couple of things to note on this main power screen: we've got our stock through power level 5s, we've got our edit button so we can adjust the fueling timing curves in each one of those power levels. But you'll also notice down here at the bottom, ECT Protect. This is basically just a feature that's in the device so that the comp will not add any power or adjust the factory calibrations until the engine is up to operating temp. Once the coolant gets up to operating temp, the module will kick on and start adding the power, the adjustability. It's also got a built-in safety that the comp will turn itself down, turn itself off if the coolant temp gets too hot. So it's a built-in coolant protection setup. We've also got this pump wire status button here. And this will allow us, when the truck is running, we can select the pump wire status and it'll tell us if that pump wire is connected or not. So that will tell us if we got a good connection at that pump wire. So if you start having intermittent running issues or have any kind of a problem that just doesn't seem to make sense when you're driving it, you know, maybe that pump wire just isn't got a good solid connection, we can confirm that right here in the app just for safety's sake. But we'll go into the cab to walk through this so we have a little better lighting. All right, so let's talk about adjusting your fueling and timing curves for your application. So within the app, we have a lot of built-in adjustability so that you can fine-tune the driving, the throttle response, the turbo spool up. So in a stock application, the preloaded tune should be pretty spot on. But if you've done bigger injectors, bigger turbocharger setups, all of this can be adjusted by simply selecting the edit button on the power level you want to adjust. And you'll see we have 3 main settings that we can change: the boost fueling set point, the APP fueling set point, and our timing set point. And then to the right, you can see this eye that's within the circle, and this will give you a little bit of information about what that does. So this first setting, the boost fueling set point, it's preset on level 1 at 10 PSI. What this is this is basically the maximum fueling when it's achieved at the selected boost pressure. So in level 1, you're going to get the maximum additional fuel from the comp at 10 PSI. So between 0 and 10, it's ramping that fuel in. If we want to go ahead and have heavier fueling, we can obviously go to higher power level, but we can adjust each individual power level. We can change this max fuel set point anywhere from 0 to 45 PSI. So if we want more fuel sooner, we'd set this PSI lower. So at 0 PSI, comp is going to start adding 100% of the fueling. But if we need less fuel so that the truck is not as smoky down low, we can increase that PSI, the boost pressure coming from the map sensor that the device sees. So at 20 PSI, it's the ramp rate of that fueling is going to be slower because it's got to get to 20 PSI before we get to our 100% fueling application. Again, you can set that all the way up to 45 PSI. The one thing to note is that you don't ever want to set this higher than what your truck's max boost is. So in a stock application that makes, say, 30 PSI, we're never going to get to full fuel if we set this boost fuel setting at 45 PSI. You'll never get to 100% fueling from the comp. So this should never be higher than what your max boost potential is. In a compound setup, the truck might make 70 pounds of pressure, 80 pounds of pressure, whatever it might be. So we can kind of fine tune where that max fueling hits us and the ramp rate at which that it does that. So we can just slide that bar. You can also set that wherever you need. Again, this is a preset at 10 for our stop application. Once you set that, you do need to select the update setting. The APP fueling set point, this one is a little bit different. This will really adjust the fuel delivery based on your accelerator pedal position. So how much throttle do you need to give it to get that fuel delivery down low? So number 5 is obviously the most aggressive. This is going to give you the most fuel at the lowest pedal setting. So you don't have to give it very much pedal. If it's too sensitive or you need to back that fueling down, you can go in and just turn this down all the way down to 1, which is going to be the least aggressive fueling. So you've got to give it more pedal to get into that fuel. That just allows you to kind of fine tune the drivability. So if you've got really big injectors that dump a lot of fuel quickly, you can kind of fine tune that drivability just by adjusting that accelerator pedal position fueling. Then the last point that we can adjust is our timing. Again, in the info, this adjusts the fuel injection timing. Level 5 is the most advanced. Level 1 uses your OEM timing. So depending on your injector setup, your elevation, the turbo that you're trying to spool, you can adjust the timing. Again, 1 through 5, 5 being the most aggressive timing. That's obviously going to give you the best power potential, best fuel economy. Timing helps that stuff, but it can also hinder some applications, you know, big turbochargers. We can kind of fine tune that timing to best suit your specific application. And there's a lot of variables that will affect this. So every truck, every elevation, whether it's an automatic or a manual, even an automatic with a different stall converter, all of that spool up, the drivability will be different on every application. So you have the adjustability in the app to kind of fine tune that. And you can do this for every single power level. So we've got a big set of 200 horsepower nozzles that just fuel real heavy, big single turbocharger that's not real easy to spool. We need to be able to set a power level 1 or power level 2 to be drivable on the street without just dumping a bunch of fuel down low. But on power level 5, when we're at the track, we want maximum potential. We can go in and edit power level 5 so that it spools the way it needs to off the line, gives you max fuel. As soon as you get into that throttle, we can kind of fine tune every power level so that you can have, you know, a range from mild to wild and use this truck for what it's needed, what your application is. You know, the engineers really spent a lot of time on this new comp to kind of build on the legacy of the original comp that's been in the market for 20 years. It's been a really good product for us, but after 20 years, it needed some attention. And we wanted to really focus on making the best VP44 tuner that's available on the market. And I think we've really done it with this. Again, this comp module gives you the adjustability to give you the performance and drivability of our old standard comp module. But it has more maximum potential than our hot version did. So you're going to get the absolute best RPM and performance out of your VP44 with this comp. We have tested and compared it with some of the other products on the market. One of the other custom tunable VP44 devices, in this specific truck, we really started having high RPM fuel pop. The dyno really showed a lack of performance in that higher RPM. It wasn't fueling like it was supposed to. There was some breakup. This device, with the comp installed in this truck, we were able to get 3, 4, almost 500 RPM more fueling out of the competitor's product. So I really think you guys will appreciate the adjustability, the drivability, and just how smoothly that power curve comes on with this truck. Anybody that's ever tuned a VP44 knows how much potential there is in tuning that setup. And this comp really dials in so that you get the absolute best performance and drivability out of this old truck. You know, at Edge Products, we've been committed to the 5.9 Cummins for a really long time. And with the engineering effort we've put into this comp module, we're just proving that we are still committed to these old trucks. We're still committed to offering the best products we possibly can for these applications. So if you're looking for the absolute best tuning for your VP44, you know, we've got other items. We've got our Edge Easy that's available for the VP44 for the guys that are just a daily driver, want safe towing performance. The Easy is a simple plug and play box that really works well. We've also got our Juice with Attitude, whether you choose our CS2 monitor or the larger CTS3 monitor. Juice with Attitude works really well in these trucks. Gives you that on-the-fly adjustability of power, the safety back down so that it'll pull fueling if your EGTs get too hot. But for those guys that are all-out performance oriented, already have gauges and don't need a monitor, this comp is a home run. We really think you'll appreciate the way your truck runs with this. If you want to learn more about it, you can see some of our other videos on YouTube. Check out our Facebook page. Obviously, we'll keep you up to speed on anything coming down the pipeline, but we really wanted to prove that we're dedicated to this VP44 market. Even though they've been discontinued and out of the market for 20 years, there's still a lot of these on the road, and we want to make sure we're supporting them with the best products that Edge can offer. And we look forward to hearing your feedback.